Hi, this is Brecklin Abels, and I'm going to be presenting my study comparison for our research course. So the research problem that I've been investigating is serum 25-hydroxyvitamin D levels as a way to reduce the risk for postpartum or for depression in the perinatal period, not just the postpartum. So the two studies that I chose were low maternal serum vitamin D during pregnancy and the risk for postpartum depression symptoms, which I'll reference as Study 1. And Study 2 is vitamin D deficiency and depressive symptoms in the perinatal period. So again, the research problem was kind of just to assess the association between low vitamin D levels and an increased risk of depression in the perinatal period. So the study design, Study 1 was a longitudinal cohort study of 125 participants, and the way they set this up was that they collected the vitamin D levels and the Edinburgh postnatal depression scores in early pregnancy, third trimester, and then again at the postpartum. Study 2 was very similar in the fact that it was a longitudinal cohort study. Where it differed was that it had 796 participants, so it was a larger study, and they collected the vitamin D levels and depression scores at 18 weeks gestation and then again in the postpartum period. The findings of these studies, the first one was concluded that it was statistically significant, the inverse relationship between vitamin D levels and depressive symptoms at each interval that they drew and screened for depression. Study 2 found that it was statistically significant as well, but again, this only screened in very early pregnancy and then again late in postpartum. So the analysis here, Study 1 was a well-done study, I think. I just had low confidence in the whole self-reporting study design, as they did lose one participant because they didn't get their stuff in on time. So there were a couple of faults there. External-wise, there's definitely a high confidence in the interval monitoring. They did a really great job of making sure that they drew at frequent intervals throughout the entire pregnancy and postpartum. Future research on this, I would just say control for the errors of self-reporting, screening people at the exact same time throughout all of pregnancy rather than just a range of time. The second study over here on the right, again, low confidence in the self-reporting of the depressive symptoms. They didn't use a formal screening process. They just kind of had women kind of verbalize how they were feeling and how they were doing. External-wise, definitely a high confidence in the sample size to accurately depict the overall population. It was the largest study that I found on this topic. For future research on this one, I would just say to include other ethnicities, since they did exclude anyone who was not Caucasian, just so that they can control for other factors, since there's, research saying that, darker skin has different levels of vitamin D levels versus white skin having different levels of vitamin D levels. So I would say either include other ethnicities so we could see the overall population, or conduct the exact same research in each ethnic group so we could kind of see what the overall correlation is. So these are my references. Overall, I thought that these studies were pretty darn similar. They had a few variances in the way they did things, but similar studies, and just a couple of factors that should be changed up for next time. Thanks, guys.